We teach 4 and 20 keys, 12 times the 2 series of 7, but in point of fact, we have at our command only 2, the major key and the minor key. The rest are merely transpositions. By means of the several transpositions, we are supposed to get different shades of harmony. But this is an illusion. In England, under the reign of the high concert pitch, the most familiar works may be played a semitone higher than they are written without changing their effect. Singers transpose an aria to suit their convenience, leaving untransposed what precedes and follows. Songwriters not infrequently publish their own compositions in 3 different pitches. In all 3 editions, the pieces are precisely alike. When a well-known face looks out of a window, it matters not whether it gazes down from the first story or the third. Were it feasible to elevate or depress a landscape far as eye can reach by several hundred yards, the pictorial impression would neither gain nor lose by it. Upon the 2 series of 7, the major key and the minor key, the whole art of music has been established. One limitation brings on the other. To each of these, a definite character has been attributed. We have learned and have taught that they should be heard as contrasts, and they have gradually acquired the significance of symbols. Major and minor, maggiore e minore, contentment and discontent, joy and sorrow, light and shade. The harmonic symbols have fenced in the expression of music, from Bach to Wagner. And yet further on until today and the day after tomorrow, minor is employed with the same intention and has the same effect upon us now as 200 years ago. Nowadays, it is no longer possible to compose a funeral march, for it already exists once for all. Even the least informed non-professional knows what to expect when a funeral march, whichever you please, is to be played. Even such an one can anticipate the difference between a symphony in major and one in minor. We are tyrannized by major and minor, by the bifurcated garment. Strange that one should feel major and minor as opposites. They both present the same face, now more joyous, now more serious. And a mere touch of the brush suffices to turn the one into the other. The passage from either to the other is easy and imperceptible. When it occurs frequently and swiftly, the 2 begin to shimmer and coalesce indistinguishably. But when we recognize that major and minor form one whole with a double meaning, and that the 4 and 20 keys are simply an 11-fold transposition of the original twain, we arrive unconstrainedly at a perception of the unity of our system of keys, tonality. The conceptions of related and foreign keys vanish, and with them the entire intricate theory of degrees and relations. We possess one single key, but it is of most meager sort. Quote, unity of the key system, end of quote. Quote, I suppose you mean that key and key system are the sunbeam and its diffraction into colors, end of quote. No, that I cannot mean, for our whole system of tone, key, and tonality, taken in its entirety, is only a part of a fraction of one diffracted ray from that sun. Music is the empyrean of the eternal harmony. However deeply rooted the attachment to the habitual and inertia may be in the ways and nature of humankind, in equal measure are energy and opposition to the existing order, characteristic of all that has life. Nature has her wiles and persuades man, obstinately opposed though he be to progress and change. Nature progresses continually and changes unremittingly, but with so even and unnoticeable movement that men perceive only quiescence. Only on looking backward from a distance do they note with astonishment that they have been deceived. The reformer of any given period excites irritation for the reason that his changes find men unprepared, and above all because these changes are appreciable. The reformer, in comparison with nature, is undiplomatic, and as a wholly logical consequence, his changes do not win general acceptance until time, with subtle, imperceptible advance, has bridged over the leap of the self-assured leader. Yet we find cases in which the reformer marched abreast of the times while the rest fell behind, and then they have to be forced and lashed to take the leap across the passage they have missed. I believe that the major and minor key with its transpositional relations, our, quote, 12 semitone system, end of quote, exhibits such a case of falling behind. That some few have already felt how the intervals of the series of 7 might be differently arranged, graduated, is manifested in isolated passages by Liszt and recently by Debussy and his followers, and even by Richard Strauss. Strong impulse, longing, gifted instinct all speak from these strains. Yet it does not appear to me that a conscious and orderly conception of this intensified means of expression had been formed by these composers. I have made an attempt to exhaust the possibilities of the arrangement of degrees within the 7-tone scale and succeeded by raising and lowering the intervals and establishing 113 different scales. These 113 scales within the octave C, comprise the greater part of our familiar 24 keys and furthermore a series of new keys of peculiar character. But with these, the mind is not exhausted, for we are at liberty to transpose each one of these 113. Besides the blending of 2 such keys in harmony and melody. There is a significant difference between the sound of the scale C, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, when C is taken as tonic, and the scale of D flat minor. By giving it the customary C major triad as a fundamental harmony, a novel harmonic sensation is obtained. But now listen to this same scale supported alternately by the A minor, E flat major, and C major triads, and you cannot avoid a feeling of delightful surprise at the strangely unfamiliar euphony. But how would a lawgiver classify the tone series C, D flat, E flat, F flat, G, A, B, C? C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A, B, C. C, D, E flat, F flat, G flat, A, B, C. C, D flat, E, F, G flat, A, B flat, C. Or these, forsooth. C, D, E flat, F flat, G, A sharp, B, C. C, D, E flat, F flat, G sharp, A, B, C. C, D flat, E flat, F sharp, G sharp, A, B flat, C. One cannot estimate at a glance what wealth of melodic and harmonic expression would thus be opened up to the hearing, but a great many novel possibilities may be accepted as certain and are perceptible at a glance. With this presentation, the unity of all keys may be considered as finely pronounced and justified, a kaleidoscope blending and interchanging of 12 semitones within the 3-mirror tube of taste, emotion, and intention, the essential feature of the harmony of today. The harmony of today, and not for long, for all signs presage a revolution and a next step toward that eternal harmony. Let us once again call to mind that in this latter, the gradation of the octave is infinite, and let us strive to draw a little nearer to infinitude. The tripartite tone, third of a tone, has for some time been demanding admittance, and we have left the call unheeded. Whoever has experimented, like myself, in a modest way with this interval and introduced, either with voice or with violin, 2 equidistant indeterminate tones between the extremes of a whole tone, schooling his ear in his precision of attack, will not have failed to discern that tripartite tones are wholly independent intervals with a pronounced character, and not to be confounded with ill-tuned semitones. They form a refinement in chromatics based, as at present appears, on the whole tone scale. Were we to adopt them without further preparation, we should have to give up the semitones and lose our minor third and perfect fifth, and this loss would be felt more keenly than the relative gain of a system of 18 1/3 tones. But there is no apparent reason for giving up the semitones for the sake of this new system. By retaining for each whole tone a semitone, we obtain a second series of whole tones, lying a semitone higher than the original series. Then by dividing the second series of whole tones into third tones, each third tone in the lower series will be matched by a semitone in the higher series. Thus, we have really arrived at a system of whole tones divided into sixths of a tone, and we may be sure that even sixth tones will sometime be adopted into musical speech, but the tonal system above sketched must first of all train the hearing to thirds of a tone without giving up the semitones. To summarize, we may set up either two series of third tones with an interval of a semitone between the series, or the usual semitonic series thrice repeated at the interval of 1/3 of a tone. Merely for the sake of distinction, let us call the first tone C and the next third tones C sharp and D flat. The first semitone, small c, and its following thirds C sharp and D flat. The result is fully explained by the table below. A preliminary expedient for notation might be to draw 6 lines for the staff using the lines for the whole tones and the spaces for the semitones. Then indicating the third tones by sharps and flats. The question of notation seems to me subordinate. On the other hand, the question is important and imperious, how and on what these tones are to be produced. Fortunately, while busied with this essay, I received from America direct and authentic intelligence, which solves the problem in a simple manner. I refer to an invention by Dr. Thaddeus Cahill. Note, New Music for an Old World. Dr. Thaddeus Cahill's dynamophone, an extraordinary electrical invention for producing scientifically perfect music. Article in McClure's magazine for July 1906 by Ray Stannard Baker. Readers interested in the details of this invention are referred to the above-mentioned magazine article. I refer to an invention by Dr. Thaddeus Cahill. He has constructed a comprehensive apparatus which makes it possible to transform an electric current into a fixed and mathematically exact number of vibrations. As pitch depends on the number of vibrations and the apparatus may be set on any number desired, the infinite gradation of the octave may be accomplished by merely moving a lever corresponding to the pointer of a quadrant. Only a long and careful series of experiments and a continued training of the ear can render this unfamiliar material approachable and plastic for the coming generation, and for art. And what a vista of fair hopes and dreamlike fancies is thus opened for them both. Who has not dreamt that he could float on air, and firmly believed his dream to be reality? Let us take thought how music may be restored to its primitive natural essence. Let us free it from architectonic, acoustic, and aesthetic dogmas. Let it be pure invention and sentiment and harmonies and forms and tone colors, for invention and sentiment are not the prerogative of melody alone. Let it follow the line of the rainbow and vie with the clouds and breaking sunbeams. Let music be naught else than nature mirrored by and reflected from the human breast, for it is sounding air and floats above and above the air. For it is sounding air and floats above and beyond the air, within man himself as universally and absolutely as in creation entire. For it can gather together and disperse without losing in intensity.